Hello and welcome to this Learn tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can make a bouncing ball avoiding game. So this game is quite simple but quite difficult. All that happens is a ball bounces around the screen and you've got to avoid it by moving your mouse. Every so often a new ball appears and that bounces around the screen as well. And as you've probably noticed that every time the ball hits the side of the wall it gets bigger. And you have a hedgehog here that tells you what your score was, how long you lasted. Okie dokie, so let's get started. What we need to do here is we just let's create ourselves a new project. There we go. And the first thing we'll do is we'll get rid of Scratch the Cat because we don't need him. We're going to go down here, choose a backdrop, and I'm going to choose Neon Tunnel. There you go. So I'm going to choose that one. You can choose what you want. It doesn't really make a difference. Good. So there's our backdrop, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create ourselves a title that's called Bounce Mania. So we're going to paint it ourselves by clicking on Paint and just go to Paint, and then choose the text one, and let's call it Bounce Mania. Again, you can call it whatever you like. And what we'll do is we'll select all by clicking and doing Control A, and we'll change that. I'm going to change it to pixel because I like pixel. There we go. We'll put that in the middle. There we go. Bounce Mania. Good. And I'll change the color as well. So we just double click there. And I'm going to go for this sort of crazy neon green kind of color. There we go. Whoa, excellent. There you go. So Bounce Mania. Brilliant. So we've got our title here. There we go. And what we'll do now is we'll add the start buttons, the easy, medium, and hard buttons. Now these three buttons, depending on which one you click, will determine how fast the ball moves, how often a new ball appears, and how quickly the balls get bigger. So let's create the first one, go down. This time we're going to use Choose a Sprite because we're going to use this button 3. There he is. And I'm going to use that. And what we'll do is we'll click on costumes, and let's do the first option, which is easy. There we go. There we go. Easy. That green's no good because it's a bit light. Let's go with kind of neon purple, sort of purpley kind of color. Let's bring it over there. There we go. So there you go. So the first option is easy. And what we'll do is we'll code the easy one first, and then we'll look at how we can use that in the other ones. So there's easy. We'll go on to code, and the easy button's nice and simple. All we do is we say, okay, when the start button is clicked, then what we need to do is we need to show this sprite by going into looks. So we show him, and then we need another one that says, okie dokie, when this sprite is clicked, we're going to hide it by going to hide because we don't want to see it, and then we're going to set some of the parameters, some of the variables that we're going to use in the game to control stuff. So then we go down to variables, and we need ball speed. So we create a variable called ball speed, and then because it's easy we'll set the ball speed to 1. Then we'll create a new variable called ball delay. So this is the delay in between each ball appearing, and we'll set the ball delay to, let's say, 20 seconds. So a new ball only ever appears every 20 seconds. And then we'll create a third one called ball size increase. There we go. And we'll set the ball size increase to 1. So it only gets bigger by 1 each time. Good. So there's our code for the start button. And what we do here is all we need to do is, let's call that easy. There we are. Right click and we'll duplicate it. And the reason we duplicate it is, come back. Start. There we go. Oh, that's because that's okay. Hang on. That's why. That's because here. It's what it's done here is we'll move him in a minute. What we'll do is just disconnect that a minute so we can move him. There we go. Every time I clicked on it, it hid it before I can move it. So here we go. When this sprite is clicked, what we're going to do is hide. But because it's medium, we'll set the board speed to 2, the delay of 15, and the ball increase to 1. Again, you can tweak these later when you're developing your game. And then what we'll do is we'll go to the costumes, double click on easy, change that to medium. And then we'll move that out of the way. There we go. So we got easy, medium, and then again we'll right click, duplicate, go back to the code, just disconnect that for the moment so we can move him. There we go. Easy, medium, and hard. This one is. So what we'll do here, go to costumes, hard. There we go. So the game's got 3 modes, easy, medium, and hard mode. So now, hopefully, whenever we click, there we go, that one goes. Whenever it clicks, we disappear. But we want it so that if I click this one, these 2 also disappear, and that menu there. So how do we do that? Well, nice and simple. All we do is we set an event up that's called when I receive, and we'll create a message here called start game. Because when we start the game, we want to hide all 4 of these options. So when I receive start game, we'll hide. And then we'll just drag that into all of them. So that's on there. So drag that into there, drag that into there, drag that into there. There we go. So now, whenever we receive start game, those 3 are going to hide. And the start menu, which is good. We got, in fact, actually with the start menu, we're also going to have to get him to show when the green flag's clicked as well. Show. So now what we've got is whenever we click these 3, they should hide, but they don't yet. And the reason being is that although I've said when I receive start game hide, we've never said when we're going to broadcast this start game message. Well, all we need to do is we'll just stick it on the back of these scripts here when this sprite is clicked, start game. And then we'll just add it onto the back of each one. There we go, when this sprite is clicked, start game. And then that one there, when this sprite is clicked, start game. So now, if any of them are clicked, they'll broadcast this start game message, and then the others should hide. And the start menu. Brilliant. Good. So now, we've got these 3 options. Let's make sure they're working. Yeah, you can see it here. Each time I'm just checking that those variables are changing, which they are, apart from on the hard, and that's because we've not changed that there. Speed 3, ball delay 10, increase size of 3. So now, there we go. Good. So now that we've got those 3 working, and we've debugged it to make sure it's working correctly, we don't need to keep these on the screen, so we'll just hide those. So what we'll do here is just untick these 3 variables. They're still there, but they're just not showing. They're hidden. Good. Okie dokie. So those are there. Let's get started. So now what we need to do is, after we press this start game, we want our ball to appear. So let's get going with that. So choose a sprite, and we're just going to use, I'm going to use the standard ball. There we go. And what we're going to say here is, okay, when start is clicked, so right at the start, before the actual game has started, we'll hide the ball. And then what we're going to do is, when we receive start game, what we're going to do is, that ball is going to create a clone of itself, and then that clone is going to start bouncing around. The reason we use a clone, and we don't use the actual ball itself, is because we're going to need to have lots of balls bouncing around the screen. And we don't know how many balls that we're going to need to bounce around at a maximum, because we don't know how well the user's going to do. So if we didn't use a clone of this one, which is like a copy, then we'd have to create loads of ball sprites and redo all of the same code. So that's a lot of effort. So instead, what we'll do is we'll use this cloning function. So when I receive start game, what we'll do is we'll create a clone of myself. And then what we'll do is we'll wait a certain amount of time, and then we'll keep on creating clones. And that's how you get extra balls to appear. So we'll just wait a certain amount of time and then create another ball. But how long do we wait? Well, it depends on which button has been pressed. So what we do is, instead of typing like a fixed time into here, what we do is we use this ball delay that we set at the start. And what this means is that we'll just keep on creating clones forever until the end of the game. Okie dokie, good. So that's a bit there, create a clone of myself, which is good. And now what we need to do is we need to actually handle what happens when a clone is created. And there's quite a few things that need to happen. So when we start as a clone, the first thing we want that clone to do is we want the clone to move to a random position on the screen. So what we do here is we use the motion blocks and we go to a random position. Fortunately, there's a block called random position, which makes it incredibly easy. So we go to a random position. We also need to point him in a random direction because that's the direction he's going to go off and bounce at. So we're going to point him in direction. Well, there's no random direction here, unfortunately. So we have to make our own. And we go to the operators, pick random, and we need to pick a random direction. And just like in school, we're looking at a circle. So a circle has 360 degrees. So it's going to point somewhere between 1 and 360, which means we're pointing around here somewhere. So it goes to a random point. It points in the random direction, which is good. Then what we need to do is make sure he's at his normal size and he's at his normal colour. So set those size to 100%, his colour to normal. And then what we're going to do is we're going to slowly fade him in. Rather than just pop and appear, we're going to fade him in. And this does two jobs. So how do we fade him in? Well, we need a repeat because we're going to do something very slowly a few times. And what we're going to do is we're going to set his ghost effect to 100 because that's like a transparency thing. So 100% ghost is totally clear. And then what we do is we wait a little bit of time, and let's say 0.1 seconds. And then every 0.1 seconds, or every 10th of a second, we just change his ghost effect by 10. And that hopefully should fix it. Can't remember if it's 10 or 25. I can't remember what it goes up to, but we'll find out. Oh, not 10, sorry. Minus 10. Otherwise, that's going to get even more ghosted. We start at 100, which is very transparent. And then we're going to go down from 100 down to 0% transparent, which is normal. And we got repeat 10 times, because 10 times 0.1 is a second, which means that it will then be fully, it should fully appear. So let's have a look. So there we go. Oh, we've not shown him either. Let's have a look. We also need to show him here just before we start doing this repeat. So there we go. And look, he fades in. Good. Brilliant. And now he's ready to start bouncing around, which we're going to do in a second. This delay also is useful because we want him to slowly appear, because we don't want, if he appears right under where the mouse is, then that's not really fair because the player is just going to die straight away. So we need a bit of a delay to say, oh look, I'm about to spawn here. You better move out of the way. So let's get the ball rolling or moving. Here we go. So he's going to keep bouncing around forever, or at least until the end of the game. So we're going to need a forever loop. And we're going to need him to move. And what we're going to do is we're going to get him to move in whatever direction he's now facing. So we could just use move 10 steps. But he's not going to move in 10 steps at a time. This is going to depend on whether it's easy, medium, or hard. So what we need to do here is use the variable ball speed. And this is the ball speed that you set when you clicked on those. So now if we click start, it will then, he'll start moving. Because I clicked on easy and move slowly. If I click on hard, he'll start moving quickly. Good. And you can adjust that speed, the start speed, to make it easier or hard. You can tweak the game as much as you like it. So he needs to start moving, but what he also needs to do is when he touches the edge, he needs to bounce. So we'll use this if on edge bounce block. There we go. So now if we click there, and look, there you go. He just bounces around the screen, which is brilliant. So now we've got a ball, it's bouncing around the screen, but we also want him to get slightly larger each time, every time he touches the edge. So the way we can do that is just before we do the if on edge bounce bit, we're going to we're going to see if he's touching the edge. So if touching edge, there we go. if touching the edge. So if he's touching the edge, just move that out of there. So it needs to go below there. If he's touching the edge, what we'll do is we'll just make him slightly bigger. So change size by, well, how much is he going to get bigger? Again, that's one of those variables that we set at the start of the game. Ball size increase. So change the size by whatever the ball size increase is. And we'll also change the color as well. So that, there we are. And we'll change the color by ball size increase as well. So that as the ball gets bigger, as it slowly gets bigger, he's going to change color. Good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set it so that when the mouse touches the ball, then it's game over. And that's nice and easy to do. All we need to do is we need to say, okay, if we are touching the mouse, there we go. If we are touching the mouse, so if touching the mouse pointer, then what we do is we say game over. We broadcast game over, and then we do something to all of the scripts. So here we go, broadcast, new message, game over. There we go. Good. So what's going to happen at game over? Well, a few things. First of all, when we receive game over, all of these sprites here, all of these clones need to be destroyed so that the game stops. So what we'll do is we'll just delete this clone. And then what we'll also do is we'll stop all the other scripts in this sprite. There we go. And the reason being is that we need to stop this script here that is the that keeps on spamming out more of these clone balls. Otherwise, it'll be game over. You'll delete all of these balls, and then it will just start more appearing after everyone's dead. So that needs to go. Okay, stop other scripts in this sprite. Delete this clone, and then we need some way of showing the player that it's game over. Well, we're just going to have a sign here that says game over, and then we're going to have someone that pops up and tells you what your score was. So let's have a look. Let's paint a new script. There we are, and we need game over. There we go. So a nice game over. Again, you can make this prettier and put sound effects or music on there and stuff, but I'll just leave it silent for the moment. Otherwise, it'll get a bit crazy. There we go. So we're going to do game over there. And then I'm going to choose a sprite. I think it's a hedgehog down here that I could use. Where's he at? There he is, hedgehog. Good. So I'll use a hedgehog. I don't like his grey hair though. Let's do green. There we go. Funky, that's more like it. So I need to code these now so that when it's game over, the game over sign appears and the hedgehog appears. So we can do that quite easily. So when I receive game over, we're going to appear. Looks, and we're going to show. There we go. Which of course means that at the start of the game, going to need to hide. So when the start button's clicked, hide. Same for the hedgehog. So we'll just drag that into the hedgehog. And that saves us coding it twice. But the hedgehog's... Oh, where's that gone? Is that another one behind it? Yeah, that's okay. The hedgehog's slightly different because we want him to actually talk. And we want him to say how long the player has lasted in the game. Well, how do we do that? Well, we're okay because we've got this inbuilt timer, which is down here. And whenever you press start, the timer starts counting from the second that you press the start button, which is okay. But the problem we got is that, let's say you press start, but you don't click on here straight away, you wait 30 seconds, then it's going to tell you that you lasted an extra 30 seconds in the game when that didn't happen. So what we need to do is we need to reset the timer as soon as the game starts, which again, because we got these events, is nice and simple. When I receive start game, we'll reset the timer. And then what we're going to do is we're going to display the timer up on the top left of the screen as the game is running. Now, in order to do that, we can't use the timer itself. We need to display a variable. So we'll create a variable called time. There we go. There's a time variable. And there's time up here. And what we'll do is we'll right click and we'll change them to a large readout, which is a large number. And then what we're going to do is, whenever we start the game, all we're going to do is forever, we're going to set the variable time to the timer. And what we'll do here is when you press start and press here, there you go. that timer now is going up. The timing game is going up. That's a little bit too accurate. That's more accurate than what we want. So we don't actually want it to display the actual time. We just want to display it to the nearest second. So what we can do is we can use the round function here and do that instead. So set the time to the timer rounded to the nearest second. So now if we click, there we go. And as you can see, it's ticking away quite happily. Good. So there's our timer. And all we need to do now is say, okay, when it's game over, we need the hedgehog to say the time. So when I receive game over, we're going to show. We'll just wait a second. And then we'll say, okay, you lasted. I don't know why I've got capital L. Let's go with that. And then duplicate. And then we're going to say how many seconds they lasted here. And the way we do that is we need to use the join function here, because we need to have the number of seconds there, which is this time variable, and then a space bar, and then seconds. Good. Excellent. Now, what you could do here is you could also add a bit of an achievement thing. So if the time is over 100, you could say, well done. That's a good bit to add. So if the time, if the time is greater than 100, you can say, well done. Well done, you're awesome. Well done, you are awesome. There you go. And you could do something like that, where if the time is, you could say, okay, if the time is less than 10 seconds, you could say, oh, that was awful or something, whatever you want to do. So what we do is we do all that, and what we do is we do all that there. What we also probably want to do here while this hedgehog's talking is after we've waited a second, what we'll do is we'll stop all other sprites in this script, because we need to stop, actually we need to stop this timer here as soon as it's game over, because we don't want it to keep counting up. So we'll stop the other sprites, other scripts in this sprite, which will do that. Then we'll do all of this, which is great. And then finally, we'll just stop the entire game. There you go, because that's it. Game over, finished. Good. Now there's only one more bit to do, which I'll show you in a second, which you'll notice when you start testing. So here's the ball. If I last on it, oh, game over. Oh yeah, why is that not shown? So when I receive, where's that at? Where's my, oh, broadcast game over. Oh, when I receive game over, that's why. Not when I receive, that's wrong there. So it needs to say, when I receive game over, stop the other scripts in this sprite. Bit of an issue there. So let's have a look. If I touch that, yeah, there we go. Game over, you lasted. And it should say 3 seconds. It won't say anything else because you didn't last over 100 seconds. I'm not going to wait 100 seconds to test that. You can test that. Okay, good stuff. Now, there's only one more thing that we need to do for this game, and that is there's a way of cheating that we need to stop. And the reason it is that if you've got balls bouncing around, you've got loads of them bouncing around, one way you could cheat is just move your mouse outside of the game area. And as you can see, it doesn't say game over. So that's an easy way to cheat. And we want to stop that. And there's quite an easy way to stop that. And all we do is we go to the ball sprite here, and we just add another if statement here down the bottom. We another game over. We get rid of that. And what we need to do is we need to say, okay, if the mouse pointer has gone off the edge of the screen, then we need to say game over. We need to detect that and say game over. And that's actually quite simple, because what we have are these two blocks here, the mouse X and the mouse Y. And if you look here now, if I click on the mouse X, it's telling you that my mouse X is minus 240. It's actually greater than minus 240 in reality, but Scratch only records the X value all the way to this point on the screen, which is minus 240, or this point here, which is plus 240. So you know if you're at 240 or minus 240, then you're off the screen, or you may as well be. And the same with the Y coordinate. The lowest it does is minus 180, and the highest it does is plus 180. So we just need to put a script in that goes, if it's any of those values, so minus 180x or plus 180x or minus 180y or plus 180y, any of those four, we only need four options there, 1, 2, 3, 4, then we need to put game over. And what we do now is you drag these equals one here, because we're going to use the equal to. As I said, his actual x value or his y value will be greater or less than minus 240, but Scratch doesn't recognize that, so you're going to use equal to. So mouse x, we'll just duplicate that. So 2 possibilities for x, 2 possibilities for y. The x value is between minus 240 or plus 240, and the y value is, oops, what have we done there? Where's he gone? Oh, he's fallen out. That's no good. Let's stick him back in there. There we go. So that looks about right. Hopefully that will work. You can just check that. Minus 240 or plus 240. There we go. So now that should, if you go off any of those sides there, it should broadcast game over, just the same as if you were touching the any of those balls. So let's find out again. Let's have a go. Easy. Let's test that. Game over. Good. Obviously, we're going to test this with all of them. Here we go. Oh, so it's not working. Y, is it? Let's have a look at that. Oh, that's because the Y value only goes between minus 180 and plus 180. This is why we test our games. There we go. Let's try that again. Run. Let's try again. There we go. Good. So if we go off the bottom, it says game over. If we go off the top, it says game over. If we go off the left, it says game over. And if we go off the right, it says game over. Yay, good stuff. Okie dokie. So there you go. So that's the game fully coded. I hope you enjoyed that. As I said, you probably want to, in order to make improvements, you're probably going to want to add some sound effects and some music, and maybe tweak these values for the easier, medium, and hard, either to make it really easy or make it kind of like really, really easy but really, really hard, depending which one you choose. That's entirely up to you. Or you can choose different shapes. Instead of balls bouncing around, you could have different sprites flying around. Entirely up to you. There you go. If you like the tutorial, then please do like it and subscribe if you like it. If you've got any requests or any suggestions for videos, then please just leave a comment on YouTube and I will do the best I can. Thank you very much.